I never thought my life would take such a sharp turn. My name is Jake, and I used to think I had it all. A decent job, a nice house in a good neighborhood, and a wife named Sarah whom I thought was my partner for life. We'd been married for 5 years, and while we didn't have a perfect relationship, I thought we were doing okay. But I guess okay can be a deceptive place to be. Things started to unravel slowly. At first, it was the little things. Sarah began working longer hours at her job as a marketing executive, which was fine at first. I supported her ambition, but then she started coming home late more frequently. She claimed it was the project deadlines and late meetings. I wanted to believe her, and I mostly did. But there was a nagging feeling in the back of my mind, the kind that makes your stomach churn at 3 in the morning when you can't sleep. I noticed changes in her behavior too. She became more secretive with her phone. I'd catch glimpses of her messages, but she would quickly swipe away or change the subject when I asked about them. I told myself it was nothing but my brain playing tricks on me, but as the days turned into weeks, that feeling grew stronger. It was like I was living in a thriller novel, yet I still couldn't see the plot twist coming. One fateful Friday night, I came home early from work, excited to surprise Sarah with takeout from our favorite restaurant. When I walked through the front door, I was hit by an unusual silence. The TV was off and the house was dark. I called out for her, but there was no answer. I shrugged it off at first, thinking she might have gone out with friends, but then I noticed her car was in the driveway. That's when I spotted a note on the kitchen counter. It wasn't unusual for us to leave little love notes for each other, but this one felt different. In a hurried scrawl, it read, "Gone to see a friend, be back late." Something about it felt off, but again, I chose to ignore my instincts. For a moment, I took a deep breath and tried to dismiss the anxious thoughts swirling in my head. Then I went to the fridge, hoping to find something cold to drink. That's when I saw it, her phone lying on the table. It lit up with a message, and before I even thought about it, I picked it up. I knew I shouldn't, but curiosity got the better of me. I unlocked her phone, which of course wasn't difficult since she didn't think I would ever do something like that. What I found next shattered my world. There were messages from Mark, the bartender from our local bar. At first I thought I was misinterpreting things, but as I scrolled it became painfully clear. They were planning to meet up, and the tone of the messages was more than flirtatious. It was downright sexual. My heart raced and I felt like I had been punched in the gut. How could she do this to me? I confronted Sarah that night when she finally came home. I couldn't hold it in any longer. The betrayal was too fresh, too painful, and the anger surged through me like wildfire. I demanded to know what was going on, but instead of the remorse I expected, she laughed it off. She claimed I was being paranoid, that I was overreacting, and that Mark was just a friend. I felt my blood boil. I threw her phone on the table and pointed at the messages. A friend? Really, Sarah, this is how friends talk. She turned defensive, her words full of lies and excuses. It was as if I was talking to a stranger, completely disconnected from the person I thought I knew. I felt the ground beneath me shifting, and I realized that my whole life had been built on a foundation of deceit. The emotional impact was crushing. I went from anger to shock and eventually to deep sadness. I had never felt so alone in my life. The woman I trusted most was betraying me with a bartender. I couldn't escape the feelings of inadequacy and betrayal. My mind raced with thoughts of how I had failed her or what I could have done differently. But deep down, I knew this wasn't my fault. This was her choice. The days following my discovery were filled with turmoil. I tried to talk to her about it, but the conversations usually spiraled into more lies and accusations. It was like I was living in a nightmare, and I wanted to wake up, but reality was much harsher than any dream. I realized I didn't want to live like this anymore, and that's when I made the decision to take control of my life. I decided I wouldn't just be a victim. I was going to find a way to reclaim my independence. The idea came to me suddenly. Why not build my own bar? I had always wanted to create a space where I could truly express myself and enjoy life on my terms. So that's what I did. I took my pain and turned it into something constructive, something that would not just help me heal but also serve as my ultimate act of revenge. I started planning. I found a location, sourced materials, and began building my own bar. It was going to be a place where I called the shots. It would serve amazing drinks, and I wouldn't have to worry about Sarah or Mark ever again. I knew I was going to get through this, and I would do it on my own terms. I spent countless hours designing the bar, pouring my heart and soul into every detail. I learned everything. I could about mixology, and soon enough the bar became my sanctuary. I wasn't just rebuilding, I was redefining what happiness meant for me. As I stood in my new bar on opening night, I couldn't help but reflect on the path that had led me here. I had learned that sometimes betrayal can lead to unexpected growth and transformation. Life may throw us curveballs, but it's up to us to decide how to respond. The pain of betrayal might linger, but it no longer controlled me. I had taken charge of my life, and that felt liberating. To be continued. After I opened my bar, which I named Jake's Haven, things started to shift in my life. I found myself pouring energy into my new project rather than dwelling on the pain Sarah caused me. The place quickly became a local hit. People loved the atmosphere, and as the owner, I had control over everything: the drinks, the music, the vibe. It was refreshing to do something entirely for myself, to create something positive out of the mess that was my marriage. The bar became a sanctuary not just for me, but for others too. It drew in a crowd, and I began to form new friendships. Regulars would stop by after work, and I would mix them drinks while sharing stories and laughter. I felt a sense of community that I hadn't experienced in a long time. Each night reminded me that life could still be enjoyable, even without Sarah by my side. But Sarah didn't just disappear from my life. She still tried to reach out. Every so often, I'd get a text from her. At first, she was apologetic, claiming that she'd made a huge mistake and wanted to work things out. I often read the messages with a mix of anger and disbelief. How could she think that I would entertain the idea of taking her back after everything? It was as if she was trying to rewrite history, hoping I would forget her betrayal just because she said she was sorry. I didn't respond for a long time. It was hard to ignore her completely since we shared a lot of mutual friends, but I made it clear that I was done with the relationship. I didn't want to be reminded of the past, especially when I was finally building something great for myself. Then one night she showed up at the bar unannounced. I was busy behind the counter when I spotted her walking in. My heart sank. She looked good, but that didn't matter. I forced myself to remain calm. I had been getting stronger, and I wasn't about to let her come in and mess with my newfound happiness. "Jake," she called out as she approached the bar, her voice betraying a hint of desperation. "Can we talk?" I paused, wiping down the counter. The bar was full, and I could feel the eyes of my customers on us. I didn't want to create a scene, but I also didn't want to give her an inch. "Not here, Sarah, you need to leave." She looked hurt, but I could also see anger flashing in her eyes. "You can't just shut me out like this. I want to explain." "Explain what? How you betrayed me? You've had your chance, Sarah. I'm done." The words felt powerful as they left my lips, almost liberating. Her face hardened. "You think you're better off without me? You think you can just move on like this?" "Actually, I am better off. I built this place from the ground up, and I'm not looking back." I gestured around the bar, feeling proud of what I had accomplished. "This is my life now," she huffed, crossing her arms. "So you're going to just pretend I don't exist? You're going to run away from everything we had? Everything we had? You shattered that when you decided to lie and cheat. You can't ask me to pretend it didn't happen." My voice rose slightly, the anger bubbling to the surface. Tension between us was thick, and I could sense the onlookers watching our exchange. I was aware that the crowd was still enjoying their drinks, but the atmosphere had changed. People were whispering, and I could hear their conversations about our confrontation. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of seeing me upset, so I took a deep breath and tried to steady myself. "Jake, she started, but I cut her off. "I don't want to hear it. You made your choice. Now I'm making mine. I'm moving on." With that, I turned my back on her and went to serve another customer, trying to forget that she was even there. As the night went on, I felt a mix of emotions: relief, anger, and even a hint of sadness. I was proud of myself for standing my ground, but it was hard to ignore the history we shared. I had loved her once, but love couldn't erase betrayal, and I had learned that lesson the hard way. The encounter lit a fire under me. I didn't want to waste another moment wallowing in the past. I focused on my business and the people who were now a part of my life. It was during this time that I met someone new, Emily. She was a bartender who had just moved to town and was looking for a job. When she came in to introduce herself, I was immediately drawn to her vibrant personality and genuine smile. We hit it off right away. She had a passion for mixology just like I did, and she brought a fresh energy to the bar that was infectious. We shared laughs and stories, and I found myself genuinely enjoying her company. It felt good to connect with someone who didn't carry the weight of my past. One evening, as we were closing up, I caught myself thinking about how much my life had changed since Sarah. I hadn't just built a bar, I had built a new life. Emily and I began spending more time together outside of work, and I found myself starting to feel hopeful again. I was learning to trust and open my heart, and it felt exhilarating. But Sarah's presence still loomed in the background. I knew she wasn't going to give up easily. I could sense that she was still trying to worm her way back into my life, using our mutual friends to get to me. I had to be vigilant, ensuring that she wouldn't derail the progress I had made. I was determined to stay strong. This was my journey, and I wasn't willing to let her take anything away from me again. I had built my own bar, my own life, and I was more than ready to embrace whatever came next. To be continued. As the weeks turned into months, Jake's Haven thrived, both as a bar and as a symbol of my newfound independence. I poured every ounce of my energy into making it a success. The evenings were always filled with laughter, good music, and conversations that went late into the night. I was finally in a place where I felt at home, surrounded by people who appreciated what I had built. Emily and I had developed a solid friendship that was blossoming into something more. She was different from Sarah, genuine, kind, and most importantly, she didn't have a history of betrayal hanging over her. I enjoyed our late-night conversations while cleaning up the bar or mixing new cocktails together. We shared our dreams, our favorite music, and even some embarrassing stories from our pasts. But just as I felt like I was on solid ground, Sarah made another attempt to re-enter my life. One night, while I was working the bar, she walked in again. This time, she was with a group of friends. I could see her from the corner of my eye. She tried to act casual, laughing with her friends, but I could feel her eyes flicking in my direction, as if she was waiting for me to acknowledge her. I didn't want to cause a scene, especially with customers around, so I busied myself behind the bar, pouring drinks and chatting with the patrons, but the tension was palpable. I could feel her gaze burning into me, and I tried to block it out. Unfortunately, it only intensified when she approached the bar. "Hey, Jake," she said, her voice overly cheerful as if we were old friends. "How's business?" I looked up and forced a smile, keeping my tone neutral. "It's good, Sarah. Busy night as usual." "Glad to hear that. I've been meaning to come by and check out your place." "Yeah, well, it's nice to see you." I turned back to the other customers, trying to signal that the conversation was over, but she wasn't done. "What about you and Emily?" she asked, a hint of venom in her voice. "Are you two an item now?" Her question caught me off guard. I didn't want to talk about my personal life with her, especially in front of a crowd. "That's none of your business," I replied sharply, my irritation creeping to the surface. "You chose your path and I'm choosing mine." Her expression faltered for a moment before she recovered. "I just want to understand what went wrong." "Jake, I want to clear the air. Can we just talk privately for a minute?" "Sarah," I said, keeping my voice steady, "we've got nothing to talk about. You made your choices and I'm not looking back." With that, I turned away again, but I could feel her frustration behind me. I didn't want to engage with her anymore. I was done. I had worked too hard to build my life back up to let her drag me into the mess we once had. The rest of the night was tense, but thankfully the bar was busy enough that I could keep myself occupied. However, I couldn't shake the feeling of anxiety that lingered from Sarah's presence. I felt like I was constantly looking over my shoulder, worried that she would try to pull another stunt to get my attention. As the bar began to quiet down, Emily came over to check in on me. "Hey, you okay? I saw Sarah leave and she didn't look too happy." I sighed, rubbing my temples. "Yeah, she just doesn't get it. I thought I had made it clear that I'm done, but she keeps trying to insert herself into my life. It's exhausting." Emily nodded, her expression sympathetic. You definitely don't need that. You deserve to move on, Jake. I appreciated her support. She had been a breath of fresh air in my life, and I found myself wanting to spend more time with her, not just at work but outside of it too. We had gone out for coffee a couple of times, and I kept finding new reasons to enjoy her company. As the weeks went on, we began to hang out more, and one night, after a long shift at the bar, we ended up at a cozy diner just down the street. Over greasy burgers and milkshakes, the conversation flowed effortlessly between us. I felt a spark that I hadn't felt in a long time, and I knew I was beginning to develop feelings for her. As we laughed and talked, I realized that Emily was everything I needed right now, someone who was supportive, understanding, and didn't come with the baggage of my past. I was ready to explore this new chapter of my life. But just when things started to feel right, Sarah resurfaced again. This time, it wasn't just a casual encounter. She showed up uninvited to the bar, and I was in the middle of a busy evening, pouring drinks and chatting with customers when I felt her presence again. I turned to find her standing at the bar, clearly upset. Jake, we need to talk, she insisted, her voice slicing through the chatter of the crowd. I looked at her, feeling my irritation rise. I told you I'm not interested in talking, Sarah. Just hear me out, she pleaded, her eyes desperate. I know I messed up, but I've been doing a lot of thinking. I want to make things right. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Make things right? You cheated on me with my bartender. What exactly do you think we can fix? Please just give me a chance to explain. Can we go outside? I hesitated. I didn't want to create a scene in front of customers, and part of me felt bad for her. She looked genuinely upset. But I also knew that talking to her would only open old wounds. Still, I felt cornered, and the eyes of the bar's patrons were on me, waiting to see how I would respond. With a heavy sigh, I nodded and motioned for her to follow me outside, away from the noise of the bar. The cool night air hit me as I stepped onto the sidewalk, and I took a moment to collect my thoughts before turning to face her. What do you want, Sarah? I asked, my tone sharper than I intended. I want to apologize for everything, she said, her voice trembling slightly. I know I hurt you, and I'm truly sorry. I've realized how much I messed up, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make amends. Make amends? What does that even mean? I shot back. Do you want me to forget everything, to just sweep it under the rug? No, that's not what I'm asking. I don't want to lose you. I didn't realize what I had until it was gone. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This was the same person who had not only betrayed my trust but had laughed about it when confronted. You think I'm just going to fall for this again? I've rebuilt my life, and I'm not to let you tear it apart again. I promise, she insisted, but I could see the frustration growing in her eyes. At that moment, I felt a surge of clarity. I didn't want to be drawn into her drama anymore. I had moved on, and I was finally starting to find happiness again. I couldn't let her manipulate my feelings any longer. Look, Sarah, I think it's best if you leave. You made your choice, and I'm standing by mine. I'm not angry anymore. I just want to move forward. Her face twisted in disappointment, and for a moment I felt a pang of guilt. But I reminded myself of the pain she caused me. This was about my freedom now, and I wasn't going to let anyone take that away from me. With one last pleading look, she turned and walked away, leaving me standing in the cool night air. A weight lifted from my shoulders. I had stood my ground, and it felt good. As I returned to the bar, I felt lighter. I knew that whatever came next, I was ready to face it. I had built a new life for myself, and I wasn't going to let anyone ruin it. I had my bar, my friends, and Emily, a fresh start waiting to unfold, to be continued. After that confrontation with Sarah, a wave of relief washed over me. I had stood my ground, and it felt empowering. I was finally letting go of the past and embracing the life I had created for myself. The bar was thriving, and the nights grew busier. I found comfort in the laughter of customers and the friendships I was building. Emily and I grew closer with each passing day. It felt natural and easy between us, unlike anything I had experienced with Sarah. We spent our days off exploring the city together, trying new restaurants, and indulging in long talks over coffee. With her, I felt safe and free to express myself without the weight of betrayal hanging over me. One evening, after a particularly busy night at the bar, Emily and I decided to unwind at a nearby park. As we sat on a bench under the stars, I could feel the connection between us deepening. We talked about our dreams and aspirations, and I found myself revealing things I hadn't shared with anyone else in a long time. I never thought I could start over like this, I admitted, looking at her. After everything with Sarah, I wasn't sure I'd ever be able to trust anyone again. Emily smiled softly, her eyes reflecting the moonlight. I get that. It's hard to let someone in after being hurt, but I admire how you've taken control of your life. It takes strength to rebuild. Her words resonated with me. I had fought hard to reclaim my happiness, and I was proud of what I had accomplished. I glanced at her, and in that moment I felt a spark. Without thinking too much about it, I leaned in closer and kissed her softly. It was tentative at first, but when she kissed me back, it ignited something within me. The kiss was a turning point in our relationship. From that night on, we were inseparable. We spent evenings at the bar together, and Emily helped me with new drink ideas and promotions. Our teamwork turned the bar into a popular hangout spot, drawing in a crowd that appreciated the atmosphere and our camaraderie. But just as things were falling into place, Sarah made another move. I was busy one night when I received a phone call from one of our mutual friends, Mike. He sounded concerned, and I could hear the hesitation in his voice as he spoke. "Hey, Jake, I don't want to get in the middle of anything, but I think you should know that Sarah's been talking about you a lot lately. She's been saying some things that, well, they're not flattering." I felt my stomach drop. "What do you mean?" "She's been telling people you're ignoring her and that you're trying to make her look bad at your bar. She's even spread rumors about you and Emily. It's not cool, man." I clenched my jaw, the anger bubbling up inside me. "She's just trying to get attention. I've moved on and I'm done with her games." "Just be careful, okay? You know how she is. She can be pretty manipulative when she feels cornered," Mike warned. I thanked him for the heads up and hung up the phone, my anger now palpable. It seemed like Sarah was desperate to get back at me for moving on, and I was about to let her ruin what I had built. The next evening, I confronted Emily about what I had heard. We were closing up the bar, and I felt it was important to be upfront with her. "So, I got a call from Mike today. Apparently, Sarah's been spreading rumors about us." Emily's expression turned serious. "What kind of rumors?" "She's saying that I'm ignoring her and that we're not serious, and she's trying to paint me as the bad guy. I don't want you to think I'm hiding anything from you." Emily sighed, her brows furrowing in concern. "Jake, you don't have to defend yourself to me. I know what we have is real, and I'm not worried about her. I just don't want her messing with your reputation or ours. I've worked hard to build this place, and I won't let her sabotage it." Emily reached out and took my hand, her grip reassuring. "I appreciate you being honest with me, but you know what? Let her talk. We can't control what she says. What matters is how we feel about each other." Her words calmed me. I realized that I had been letting Sarah's actions dictate how I felt, and it was time to stop. "You're right. I'm done letting her have any power over my life. I'm focusing on what's important, us, this bar, and building a future together." And that's exactly what we did. We poured our energy into the bar, creating new events and drink specials that drew in crowds. I even started a Friday night mix-off, where patrons could submit their drink concoctions, and the winner got their drink featured for the month. It turned out to be a hit, and it gave us a sense of community that I hadn't expected. But just as things settled down, I received another surprise. One night while I was behind the bar, I noticed a familiar figure walk through the door, Sarah. My heart sank, and I braced myself for whatever drama would unfold. She walked straight to the bar, looking more put together than I had ever seen her. "Hey, Jake," she said, her tone casual as if we were old friends. "Can we talk?" I wasn't in the mood for another confrontation, but I also didn't want to create a scene. "Not here, Sarah. I don't want to get into it in front of my customers. Just for a minute. I promise I won't take up much of your time," she pleaded. I glanced around to see if anyone was watching, but thankfully my regulars were focused on their drinks and conversations. "Fine, let's step outside." As we moved to the patio, I could feel my stomach nodding in anticipation. "What do you want, Sarah?" I asked, keeping my tone as neutral as possible. "I wanted to apologize for everything," she said, her voice softer this time. "I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I realize how badly I messed up. I was selfish and I hurt you. It was wrong." Her words caught me off guard. She sounded genuine, but I had heard it all before. Apologies don't change the past, Sarah. You can't just come back and expect everything to be fine. I know, she said, looking down at her feet. I miss you. I've been trying to figure myself out since we split, and I've realized how much I took you for granted. I want to make things right. Can't we? At least try to be friends. I shook my head. Friends, after everything, you don't get to choose when you want to be in my life, Sarah. I've moved on and I'm not looking back. I know I messed up, but I'm asking for a chance to show you I can change, she insisted. Why now? Why should I believe you when you didn't care before? Because I'm tired of being unhappy, she admitted, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I thought I wanted something else, but I realize now that I just want you. The sight of her distress tugged at my heart, but I reminded myself of the pain she had caused me. You don't get to manipulate my feelings. I'm happy now and I won't let you back in. I've worked too hard to build a life without you. She looked crestfallen and I felt a pang of guilt, but I had to be firm. I was no longer the person who would allow her to disrupt my life. I think it's best if you leave. I'm done trying to understand your choices. As she walked away, a part of me felt heavy. I had tried to remain calm, but it was hard to shake off all the hurt from our past. I stood on the patio for a moment, watching her disappear into the night. When I returned inside, Emily noticed my expression. Hey, you okay? Yeah, just had another talk with Sarah. She's not giving up easily, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. Don't let her get to you. You've come so far, Jake. You're better off without her, Emily said, her voice filled with warmth and support. I nodded, grateful for her presence. You're right. I just have to stay focused on what matters, this bar and us. As the night continued, I realized that I had already made my choice. I was ready to fully embrace my new life and the relationship I had with Emily. Sarah's attempts to rekindle something would not sway me. I had found happiness again, and I wasn't going to let anyone take that away from me. To be continued. As the weeks progressed, I found myself in a rhythm that I never thought I could achieve after everything with Sarah. Jake. Haven was thriving, and my relationship with Emily was steadily growing deeper. Each moment spent together felt effortless, and I found myself genuinely excited about our future. We began collaborating on new drink specials that matched the seasons. Emily's creativity brought a fresh vibe to the bar, and it showed. Patrons loved the new cocktails, and the buzz around our place only intensified. We decided to host a seasonal party to celebrate the bar's success, and the planning became a fun project for both of us. One evening, as we were brainstorming ideas for the party, I looked at Emily across the bar. You know, we should have a theme that reflects our journey, something that brings together the community we've built here. She leaned back, contemplation dancing in her eyes. What about a fresh start theme? We could have cocktails named after new beginnings, things like rebirth or new horizons. I love the idea. That's perfect. It captures everything we've been through. I'll start promoting it on social media tomorrow. As we dove into planning the event, I felt invigorated. I realized that Emily had become my partner not just in business but in life. She encouraged me to be creative and reminded me that I was worth more than the pain of my past. But just as I was settling into this new chapter, I received another unexpected call. It was Mike again, his voice laced with urgency. Hey, Jake, I think you need to know Sarah's been talking about the bar again. I felt my heart race. What now? She's been telling people that she wants to come back to you, and she's stirring up drama about the party. She's trying to make you look bad and say that you're just using it as a way to get attention. I know it's not true, but you should be prepared for whatever she's planning. I ran a hand through my hair, frustration boiling beneath the surface. She just won't stop, will she? It's like she's trying to drag me back into her chaos. Just be careful, man. You know how she can be. The party is a big deal and you don't want her ruining it. I hung up the phone, feeling the weight of anxiety settle in. I had finally built something I was proud of, and I refused to let Sarah's actions overshadow it. I needed to stay focused and ensure that the party went off without a hitch. As the date of the party approached, I became more determined than ever to make it a success. Emily and I worked late into the evenings, finalizing the details, making decorations, and preparing our special cocktails for the occasion. The excitement was palpable, and I felt a sense of anticipation every time I walked into the bar. The night of the party arrived, and I was buzzing with energy. The space was decorated beautifully, with twinkling lights and banners that read "Fresh Start." I had even hired a local band to play live music, which added to the festive atmosphere. The bar was packed with familiar faces, friends, and new customers, all ready to celebrate. As the night unfolded, I felt a sense of pride wash over me. Emily was by my side, her laughter and smile contagious. We poured drinks together, shared stories, and enjoyed the music. It felt like a celebration of everything we had worked for. But as I turned to grab another drink for a customer, my eyes caught a familiar figure standing near the entrance. It was Sarah. She had arrived, and my heart sank. I immediately felt a swell of anxiety, but I couldn't let her ruin this night. I took a deep breath, reminding myself of how far I had come. Throughout the evening, I kept an eye on her, but thankfully she seemed to be keeping to herself. I hoped she wouldn't try to approach me. Just when I thought I could breathe a little easier, I saw her moving through the crowd toward me. "Jake," she called out, her voice cutting through the noise. I turned slowly, steeling myself for whatever she had to say. "What do you want, Sarah?" "I just wanted to congratulate you on the party," she said, her tone surprisingly calm. "It looks amazing. You've really done well for yourself." "Thanks, I appreciate it," I replied, keeping my voice neutral. "But I'd prefer if you didn't make a scene tonight. I'm not here to cause trouble. I just wanted to say that I've been thinking a lot about my actions, and I regret how I treated you." "Regret isn't enough," I shot back, my patience wearing thin. "You can't just show up and expect everything to be fine." "I know I can't. I just wanted you to know that I've been working on myself, trying to change for the better." I felt my anger rising again. "You can't change the past, Sarah. You hurt me. You ruined our marriage. I've moved on, and I'm happy now." Her expression shifted, frustration creeping in. "You think you can just erase everything we had? You're not the only one who's been hurt, Jake. I've struggled too. I didn't ask you to come here. You made your choices, and I'm not going back to that." Emily appeared at my side just then, sensing the tension. "Hey, Jake, can I grab you for a minute?" I nodded, grateful for the distraction. "Sure." As we stepped away from Sarah, Emily turned to me, concern in her eyes. "Are you okay? I could see her coming toward you. I wanted to make sure she doesn't upset you." "I'm fine. I just wish she would respect my boundaries. She thinks she can just waltz back into my life because she feels guilty about how she treated me." Emily nodded, her grip on my arm reassuring. "You've worked too hard to let her ruin this. Focus on the people who are here for you tonight, the ones who care about you." Taking a deep breath, I looked back at the party, watching the people laugh and dance. I had so much to be grateful for, and I refused to let Sarah take that away from me. As the night went on, I focused on enjoying the moment. I poured drinks, danced with Emily, and celebrated our success. The energy in the bar was electric, and I could feel the love and support from those around me. Later, as the band finished their last song, I took a moment to thank everyone for coming. Tonight is a celebration of new beginnings. I want to thank each of you for being a part of this journey with me. Let's keep building this community together. Cheers erupted throughout the bar, and I felt a rush of gratitude. I glanced over at Sarah one last time, but she was standing off to the side, seemingly lost in her own thoughts. I knew I had made the right choice by focusing on the present and the people who truly mattered. As the evening wound down, I took a moment to reflect. I had built something incredible, and I was surrounded by people who cared about me. I thought about how far I had come since those dark days when Sarah's betrayal had crushed me. I realized I had learned so much about resilience, strength, and the importance of surrounding myself with positive influences. I was no longer defined by my past. I had created a new life filled with hope and possibility. That night, as I locked up the bar and shared a sweet kiss with Emily, I knew I was ready for whatever came next. I had a fresh start, and I was determined to make the most of it. To be continued. The days following the party were exhilarating. The success of the Fresh Start event brought even more customers through the doors of Jake's Haven. I was riding high on a wave of positivity, and my relationship with Emily blossomed even further. It felt like everything was finally falling into place. In the weeks that followed, I focused on expanding the bar's offerings. We launched new themed nights and partnered with local musicians to bring live music into the mix. The bar became a gathering spot for the community, and I loved every moment of it. I had transformed a painful chapter of my life into something beautiful, and I was proud of what I had accomplished. But just as I had begun to settle into this new rhythm, Sarah made yet another attempt to re-enter my life. This time, she sent me a message on social media, a long-winded note that tried to justify her past actions. She spoke about how much she had learned and how she felt like she had made a terrible mistake in letting me go. It was classic Sarah, trying to manipulate my emotions again. I felt a mix of irritation and pity as I read her message. I knew better than to let her words affect me. I had come too far. I was on a different path now, one that didn't include her. I chose not to respond, realizing that engaging would only draw me back into the drama I had worked so hard to escape. Instead, I directed my energy toward my relationship with Emily. She was a breath of fresh air, and I wanted to nurture what we had built together. One evening, as we were closing up the bar, I turned to her with a newfound sense of determination. "Emily, I've been thinking a lot about us." She looked up from the counter, curiosity dancing in her eyes. "What's on your mind?" "I feel like we've built something really special together, both in business and personally. I want to take the next step." Her expression shifted, and I could see her heart racing. "What do you mean?" "I want to make this official. You've been my partner in every sense of the word, and I can't imagine my life without you. I want you to know that I'm all in." Her face broke into a wide smile, and before I could say another word, she jumped up and hugged me tightly. "Jake, that means so much to me. I've been feeling the same way. I just didn't know how to say it." In that moment, everything felt right. I had finally found a love that was built on trust and mutual respect, a stark contrast to the chaos of my past. I leaned down to kiss her gently, and it felt like a promise for the future. As our relationship deepened, I decided it was time to introduce Emily to my family. I wanted them to meet the woman who had helped me reclaim my life and my happiness. It was a big step, but I felt ready. When the day came, I was nervous but excited. Emily and I drove to my parents' house, the tension mixing with the anticipation in the air. As we arrived, I could see my mom in the kitchen through the window prepping dinner. "Are you ready?" I asked Emily, squeezing her hand. She smiled, her confidence radiating. "Absolutely, let's do this." We walked inside, and the moment my mom saw me, her face lit up. "Jake, it's so good to see you." She rushed over and enveloped me in a warm hug. After exchanging pleasantries, I introduced Emily. "Mom, Dad, this is Emily. She's been a huge part of my life lately, and I wanted you to meet her." My parents greeted her warmly, and I could see the genuine interest in their eyes. The dinner went smoothly, filled with laughter and stories. Emily fit right in, and it felt like she had always been a part of my family. As the evening progressed, I caught my dad watching me with an approving smile. It felt good to know that I had their support. After dinner, while we were enjoying dessert, my mom leaned over to me and whispered, "You look happy, Jake. I'm so glad you found someone who makes you smile like this." Her words warmed my heart. I realized that I had finally moved past the shadows of my past, and I was ready to embrace the future. In the following months, Jake's Haven continued to flourish. Emily and I worked together seamlessly, our bond strengthening with every challenge we faced. We hosted charity events, cooking competitions, and themed nights that drew in the community. It was fulfilling to see how our hard work was paying off. Meanwhile, Sarah faded into the background. I heard whispers here and there from mutual friends about her struggles, but I no longer felt the need to concern myself with her life. I had learned that letting go was vital for my own peace of mind. One night, as we closed up the bar, I turned to Emily, who was busy counting the cash from the register. "I've been thinking about expanding our menu. I want to add a few signature cocktails that represent what we've built here together." She looked up, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "I love that idea. We could create drinks inspired by our journey, like a New Horizons cocktail to celebrate our fresh start." I couldn't help but smile. "Exactly. You know what? Let's do it. We'll brainstorm some recipes tomorrow." As I watched her jot down ideas, I felt a wave of gratitude wash over me. I had come so far from the pain and betrayal of my past, and as I looked around at the bar that had become my sanctuary, I knew I was exactly where I was meant to be. From betrayal to rebuilding, I had transformed my life. I had learned the importance of resilience, trust, and love. I was ready to face whatever the future held, together with Emily, and I was determined to make it as bright as possible. In the end, I realized that sometimes life can take unexpected turns, but it's how we respond to those challenges that shapes our future. I had chosen to rise above the pain, embrace new beginnings, and build a life filled with love, laughter, and endless possibilities. And I wouldn't have it any other way.